at the movies with Tim Sika. Tim, I don't know if I have the right poster for your first movie, but it's called The Critic.
Yeah, that's the correct poster. The
Yay!
Critic. Yeah, a movie about us, about my profession. No, 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 no. Well, sort of. No, no, please. Okay. Anyway, The Critic. This is it's a period drama thriller, right? To my surprise, I thought by the looks of its title and its star, Ian McKellen, that The Critic was going to be some witty Noel Coward like comedy or satire, but no, this is a seedy little thriller. And it's based on this 2015 novel called Curtain Call by Anthony Quinn. And I think they should have stuck to the title Curtain Call because that better really describes what goes on in this movie. But yeah, Sir Ian McKellen, perfectly cast here, right? He plays this acid tongue theater critic who has it out for this famous stage actress played by Gemma Atherton. She's in the poster there too somewhere. Oh no, she isn't. No, that's this other one. Yeah, there she is. She's underneath him. Anyway, she's very popular and audiences love her, but he's always panning her and he's always panning the plays that she's in. He writes things like, "Warning, hold your breath as you pass the Duke's Theater, for here is untreated theatrical sewage." Things like that. Anyway, I know, right? So anyway, one day his editor tells him that he needs to tone it down, right? He's got to stop being so cruel and so vicious. And well, to nobody's surprise, he refuses, right? He goes, "Well, that's why my audience reads me. They like the fact that I take people down in these merciless ways." But he refuses, so he's promptly given the axe, right? So to make a long story short, he devises a plan and enlists the help of this actress to whom he's always giving horrible reviews for her acting. He consorts with her and he comes up with a plan to get his job back with the newspaper. And so what starts off as this kind of amusing, kind of sarcastic and witty story, as it goes along, turns into this very unsavory blend of blackmail, seduction, deception, adultery, exploitation, duplicity, suicide, and murder, right? And that's pretty much what all this amounts to. Not too much else, but it's worth seeing if you like these kinds of dark and sinister mystery stories. But even without that, I have to recommend it because, I mean, the prime reason to see it all is for Ian McKellen, who at 85, I mean, he's still got it. He is pitch perfect. He's always worth watching, and he delivers, what can only be described as a tantalizingly delicious performance in The Critic. He just like dives in, and he just makes this character come to life. So yeah, so if you like dark and sinister mystery stories, or you're simply a fan of really great acting, you'll want to check out The Critic. It opens today in theaters throughout the Bay
Awesome.
Area. Yeah.
Did you see yourself in any part of The Critic?
No, what's funny is I used to write movie reviews for my high school and college paper, and yes, I saw myself at that age of me being a critic in high school and college. I was terrible. In fact, I met a lady who, she was one of my big fans. I remember she used to read my reviews before they would go to press, and she'd
Sure.
go, she'd take me aside. She'd go, Tim, what you just said here, you liken the sound of this woman's voice to an inebriated cow or something. I can't remember what I said. She said, you can say that in a different way and still get the essence of that across. So anyway, I graduated. Yeah, no, I remember once I gave a review to a play that a friend of mine was in, and I was just being the critic, and she almost had a breakdown. She was so upset about what I wrote. So
Oh,
anyway,
wow.
yeah. So that's a long answer to your
Yeah.
question. Yeah, I saw myself when I was young and being a wannabe critic. I just thought that's what people wanted, but I really, really don't try to go there. No, you can criticize and you can analyze, but you don't have to be mean about it. You really
Hurtful.
don't. Or hurtful.
But then
Yeah.
again, you also can't worry too much about
Right. Yeah.
hurting people's
Yeah.
feelings in lieu of the truth.
Right, exactly. It's a fine line
Right.
you have to watch. But I have friends surrounding me, surrounding me all the time, saying, well, if you do say this, make sure you kind of temper it with the. Anyway, yeah. So
Mm.
yeah. Anyway, but the critic is just a lot of fun, So I recommend
And
people see it. Yeah.
the next one is Speak No Evil.
Ooh, yeah, look at that poster. Yeah,
Mhm.
James McAvoy. He's probably the best reason to see this. This is directed by a British horror meister, James Watkins. And I didn't know this, and I didn't even know this other movie, but this Speak No Evil is an American remake of a 2022 Danish psychological horror thriller film. It's got the same premise. It's just basically a note for note remake, except for the ending. It's about this American family who are invited to spend the weekend at this British family's idyllic country farm, whom they meet while they're on vacation in Italy. And what this American couple, played by Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy, thinks is going to be this dream holiday, right? It turns into a friggin' living
Yeesh.
nightmare. Aisley Franciosi and James McAvoy in the poster, they play the British couple. But I mean, yeah, I'm going to say something about the way he's looking right there. Anyway, for all intents and purposes, this is a reasonably effective horror movie. The tension the film generates really is palpable and is slowly and kind of unrelentingly ratcheted up in very small doses for ultimate effect. I mean, watching it is like the equivalent of having to endure like being on the rack, where your arms and legs are slowly being pulled out of their sockets.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's effective that way. Yeah, ouch is right. The movie also boasts this really, really effective sound design. Everything leading up to the inevitable confrontation, let's say, is punctuated by these audible stretches of dead silence on the soundtrack, which just artfully add to the terror, which is which is just around the corner, right? My problem with this movie, which is the same one I had when we talked about the front room last week, is that while the premise is fairly believable, it could happen, where somebody's duped into falling into a nightmare situation or scenario. Here I kept saying to myself, come on, people. By now, it's not obvious to you that these people who have brought you to this situation, it's not obvious that these people are friggin' psychopaths. What is wrong with you? It's one of those movies where you want to strangle the characters for doing things you just know are the wrong things to be doing and that are going to get them into serious trouble, right? And so,
Right.
but they do them anyway, right? And they just keep doing it. So that was frustrating. I know that was the setup and all, but it still took me out of the movie. But the very satisfying conclusion to the story, the ratcheting of tension and the performances, especially from James McAvoy, who's in the poster there, he unapologetically and with this like actorly relish chews the scenery throughout as this psychomaniac whose passive aggressive creepy behavior within seconds would have clued in any semi-conscious human being within earshot to stay away from him. But does our couple? No. Anyway, so reasons enough to check it out. I think Speak No Evil, which for me was like the problem is this horror movies. I don't know about you, Kim, but the older I get, when I watch horror movies, they're harder for me to disassociate from. I mean, I keep telling myself, these are just movies. They're stories. It's not real, but I don't know. They really put me through the mill, and it's hard for me to disassociate from what I'm seeing. To me, this movie was like subjecting myself to a dentist's drill without
Oh
Novocaine.
no.
Really,
So, but
it
you're
was.
recommending it?
I'm recommending it on for those reasons. But I mean, if you're squeamish and horror movies upset you, I don't think you'll want to go, 10 feet
Yeah.
near this. But
This is
for
not
what
my
it
jam.
is, yeah. And it's interesting. I researched the Danish movie, the original one that came out 2 years ago. It wasn't on my radar, and I read the whole synopsis and everything. And it's virtually, this movie is a shot for shot remake, except the ending. The ending to the original one, I think, would have sent American audiences screaming from the theater. It's so horrible and so grim and so awful. At least this version has a kind of cathartic, you're going, okay, good. Thank God, thank God this is the way this is turning out, because if it turns out any other way, I'm going to kill myself,
I
or at
was
least regret the fact that I just spent 2 hours putting myself through this horror.
I was listening to Michael Snyder earlier say he actually saw the
He
first version,
did.
the
Oh
Danish
yeah.
version,
Yeah.
way before he knew they were going to make this version. He said he remembered having to self-soothe. Like, it was so disturbing to him
Yeah.
that he joked
Yeah.
around that he had to watch like a children's programming to like make,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess it was awful. Whatever you're talking about, whatever ending happened there was so bad that it
Yeah.
stuck with him and he had a really rough time with it.
No, I could see that it really would be the stuff of like that would start nightmares for people. It's
Yeah.
so horrible. And I'm just glad that this version ended the way it did, because like I say, yeah, I would have had to self-soothe myself. I probably would have checked into I don't know, some kind of rehab facility.
Movie critic rehab.
Yeah, movie critic rehab. Yeah. Oh, don't ever get me into one of these movies again. Oh. Ugh.
This next one is called Look Into My Eyes.
Yes, look into my eyes. This is a very, oh man, this is a very curious film. It's called Look Into My Eyes. It's also maddening and infuriating, and I'll try to explain why. It's a documentary about a group of New York psychics conducting readings, intimate and personal readings for a group of clients. That's pretty much it. That's what this movie is. There's no narration, there's no context. It's a presentational piece where we witness a group of New York psychics doing their thing. One of these psychics only does readings concerning animals, which I thought was kind of interesting. But we watch them give readings to people who want to know. I mean, there was one girl who wanted to know who her birth parents were and why they left her up for adoption. They're doing readings regarding the death of a child. A nurse has this experience with a child under her care that dies. It's like happened 30 years before. She can't get over it. Readings about people who are confused about what their life purpose is. That kind of thing. And I guess the most interesting thing about this movie is its meta aspect. We have the filmmaker, Lana Wilson is the director, who in a way is acting as a kind of therapist and an investigator for the psychics as she interviews them and as she films them as they are doing their readings, who then in a way become kinds of therapists and investigators themselves and trying to tap into the souls of their clients. I don't know how else to say it. To be fair, I think it would really have helped to know what the filmmaker, Lana Wilson, wanted to achieve by making this film, what her goal was, because none of that is clear while watching this movie. And all that really comes across is that this is a movie about psychics and their clients that doesn't go deep, that fails to get past its surface, and it doesn't go anywhere. I think one possible goal that the director may have had in mind was to evoke like some kind of feeling or perhaps sympathy from the viewer for the subjects, both the psychics and their clients, and we do get an occasional whiff of that. I kind of felt sorry for some of these people, not in a condescending way, but in a human, emotional way. But the way it's presented is it's surface, it's superficial. We never get past just what we're shown, and a lot of what we're shown, in my opinion, was a whole lot of hooey. I mean, and cringy. Psychic phenomenon is left unexplored in any meaningful kind of way, as are psychic readings and related supernatural phenomena like mediums and clairvoyance and so forth. And as a result, to me, the subjects in this movie, both the psychics and their clients, come across as really, I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to do the Ian McKellen thing. They come across as psychologically damaged people who are connected through trauma and similar issues like revolving around loss and emotional pain. That's kind of an insight, I guess, that in some cases, at least in the ones depicted here, that it's personal loss and pain that propel people to seek out psychics. And it's that same similar sense and experience of loss and pain that makes a psychic be a psychic and want to practice as a psychic. It's like this mutually shared pain and loss and trauma that connects psychics to their clients. I guess. I don't know. I mean, are we learning that both psychic and client are emotionally damaged souls? I have no idea. I had no idea what to make of this movie. I didn't like it at all. I think for people who are skeptical of the whole notion of the supernatural and psychic sensitivity and what have you, this movie will not make any converts over to the side that maybe there is some sort of legitimacy to this practice. Maybe there's not. Like I said, it's curious, it's maddening, and it's superficial. We never get past what we're shown. And a lot of what we're shown, in my opinion, comes across as bogus. I mean, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just don't think the movie accomplished anything of any real value or purpose other than to let us know that this kind of thing, these types of psychic individuals and clients that go to them exist. But, so what? There's also an exploitive quality to the movie too that didn't go down well with me either. Anyway, that's my take on Looking Into My Eyes. I have no idea what other critics are saying about this movie. I gather it opened at Sundance. I don't know how it was received. A24 is releasing it, and A24 is like, in my opinion, it's the primo, indie boutique distributor for really quality movies, but they've had some misfires. I think this might be one of their misfires. I have no idea what to make of this movie at all.
There's a technique in telling news stories where they say you're supposed to be a really good reporter if you can tell a story without ever speaking yourself. Right. So you tell the story that, the police, you use a police officer to set the stage. You have, witness audio, you have natural sound so people feel like they're there. And never once do you say your name, or never once do you interject or narrate or anything else. Perhaps that was the technique they're going for, that being a strong storyteller by just focusing on, as you say, the pain, right, and the emotional connectedness of these people, and the psychological damage without thinking that they needed to interject themselves.
No, that's interesting what you're saying, because I'm listening to what you're saying, and a lot of what you're saying was mirroring what I kind of was like going on about. Maybe that's the technique that was used. Maybe in retrospect, if I watched it again, I would get some. I don't think so. I might get maybe more of the intent. And in a way, it's a brave movie in that it doesn't have any narration. It doesn't give you any context. Like I say, it just presents these people. And, it ends kind of on an emotional note, but I was so like in my head during the whole thing. Maybe that was the thing, maybe I needed to get out of my head to get it. And it might be a brilliant work of art, but for me, it didn't go down well. It just I like the way you described it. I mean, it's sort of like, I think that's probably what she was trying to do. I don't know.
You shouldn't have to figure out the story. When using this technique, the story should be told to you and unfold in a natural way, and it should be obvious.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. I agree with you. Yeah. So, but who knows? Others might have. Sometimes too, this is interesting about a movie. You'll see a movie, you watch the same movie as your friend, and you'll have a totally different response than your friend, but it's the same movie. So sometimes, people can, they put things together in their minds when they're watching a movie that maybe the filmmaker left out deliberately, that they're able to fill in that other people are not able to fill in for whatever reason. I don't know. So
this next movie looks kind of fun. How to Make $1 Million Before Grandma Dies, or How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies.
I saved the best for last. How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. Yeah, it's probably the best movie of the week. Albeit at times it shows the inexperience of a first-time feature film director. We'll get into that in a bit, but first to the plot. This movie, with its great title, I do love this title, How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. It's directed by Pat Bunitapat, and it stars a really, really popular Thai artist and singer. His full name is completely unpronounceable, but I guess he also goes as Bilkin. Never heard of him. Apparently in Asia, he's like, Taylor Swift.
Oh.
Anyway, he's also an actor. He's quite good in this movie. Young guy, he's like in his early 20s. He plays a slacker, a college dropout, kind of like this wannabe online gamer for cash, right? Who quits his job to become his grandma's caregiver, who happens to have stage 4 cancer. And he agrees to caretake her in exchange for her leaving her meager net worth to him upon her death. So, and you can kind of see what's coming and where this is going. What begins as this transactional arrangement between grandma and grandson, it morphs into something else entirely. And yeah, what can I say without giving too much away? It morphs into this thing where love replaces the grandson's personal obligation and expectation of return, let's just say. Also worthy of note, the grandma is played, she's in the poster there, by a 78-year-old actor named Usha Simhum in her debut role.
I love it.
And both these actors are excellent. And yeah, this is a real heart tugger. I would say it's a 3 to 5 hanky picture.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's a beautiful evocation of the Thai culture and that culture's family dynamics, how that culture views money and position as a measure of success. Well, we do that in this country too. How that tradition of the men always receiving any kind of remuneration upon the death of a family member. Women, I don't know if it's still like that now, but this apparently took place in modern times where, when people die in the family, women are always left out. It always goes either to the man or the firstborn or whatever, and only the men. And it also shows how that culture treats its elderly. And I think anybody who has ever done any kind of elder care, for one, will really love this movie. At its core, it's charming, it's sweet, and it's very, very moving. It's a very human film, I guess, a kind of gentle reminder that, being the giver is much better than being the receiver. And it's such a refreshingly welcome change in movie viewing from all the cinematic cacophony and horror bombast that seem to be the only movies making any real money at the box office these days, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of the box office, I'm happy to say, apparently this movie is a massive box office hit throughout Southeast Asia. It's opening today in U.S. theaters, but in fact, it's become the highest grossing Asian film of all time.
Wow.
It premiered in April of this year in Thailand. It's the highest grossing 2024 Thai film, and it's breaking box office records all over Southeast Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, the Philippines, Bangkok, and over 10 million people have already seen it and apparently are just falling in love with it. And I really loved it too. I didn't know about any of this until after I saw the film and then did some research on it. I mentioned that it showed signs of feature film directorial debut inexperience. The script meanders a little bit. It's a bit drawn out at times. It's kind of janky and scattershot in terms of its plotting. It's a bit long. It's like 2 hours and 5 minutes, and it could have used some tightening and shaping. But it's genuinely pure in terms of its emotion and how it skillfully manages to move the viewer. I mean, I tried. I even said, I'm not gonna give in to this. But the emotion was so pure and came so much out of character. It's not like you were being manipulated. The situation and the actions of the character elicited this emotion. That's a skilled filmmaker where you feel like you're being moved, but you're not. You don't feel like you're being toyed with. So bring tissue or break out the hankies when you go to see the best film of the week, How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies.
I have to ask you a question on this one.
Yeah.
Is it subtitles or is it in English?
It's subtitled.
Okay.
but it's
I'll still
okay.
watch it.
Yeah. Again, you forget it's in subtitles once you get caught up in the movie, and you get caught up in the movie in about the first 10 minutes. You go, oh, I can see where this is going, and that's the other thing. you kind of knew, and of course you never know for sure, but I kind of knew where it was going, but it was okay because the way they got to that destination was just genuine and so pure that I couldn't help but just fall in love with it. Yeah, I don't know. It may make my top 10. I don't know. I haven't sorted that out yet, but I really, really loved it. And it just really touched me deeply. So,
all right,
yeah.
we'll recap it. You said of The Critic, it's dark, it's sinister. Ian McKellen is pitch perfect, and this is worth seeing.
Yes.
And that's The Critic. And Speak No Evil, you said it's frustrating, even though it has a satisfying conclusion. There are great performances here. You recommend it unless someone is squeamish and doesn't like horror movies, in which case, not so recommended after all.
Yeah.
Look into my eyes. You did not get the point of this movie. You said it doesn't go anywhere. It's cringy and you didn't like it.
Yeah.
And then lastly, as you just said, How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. You call it the best movie of the week, a heart tugger, bring tissues. You said it was charming, it was sweet and human and moving and pure, and you loved it.
And that's this week in movies on the After Party Live.
It is. Tim Sika, thank you for all the good stuff.
You're welcome, Kim, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good. Have a great weekend at the movies with Tim Sika. Bye, Tim.
Bye.